Imagine two geopolitical heavyweights, right? Israel and Iran. They're in the ring, circling gloves up. It feels like that right now. This isn't just some passing news story. It's been going on for decades, this showdown. And now, June 2025, it feels like it's really escalated. You can almost feel the tension. It's like a fuse has been lit somewhere. And this isn't just happening over there. It really does have global consequences that, well, they touch your life. So our goal today, cut through the noise. We've been a deep dive into the history, the strategies, what's happening right now, this minute. We want to give you a clear picture. How did this start? What's the latest? And crucially, why does this Middle East standoff hit your wallet, your sense of security? We've really dug into this, looked at the shifts, the deep-seated anger, and it's just this high-stakes game playing out. So let's unpack it.
Yeah, and what's really striking when you look back is how different things used to be. It might actually surprise people, but back in the 1970s, Israel and Iran weren't, sworn enemies like today. There was a kind of quiet understanding, pragmatic almost. A lot of that was down to the Shah of Iran, who kept ties with the West, and so his view of Israel was much more, well, manageable. It was a different world.
It's almost hard to picture now, isn't it? That kind of past relationship. But then came 1979, the Islamic Revolution in Iran. That just changed everything, a complete earthquake. It wasn't just new leaders, it was a total flip. The new regime, Ayatollah Khomeini, instantly took this intensely anti-Israel position, calling for its destruction right from the start.
Exactly. And fast forward to today, June 2025, and that initial hostility, it's only gotten deeper, more embedded. From Tehran's point of view, Israel is this illegitimate Western creation planted in their region. And Israel, they see Iran as, well, an existential threat, pure and simple, right, especially with Iran's nuclear program moving forward and, their undeniable support for groups like Hezbollah up in Lebanon and Hamas down in Gaza. It's fundamental.
Okay, so this deep animosity is there. How does it actually play out? On the ground, strategically, we've seen Iran develop this thing they call the axis of resistance, which sounds quite dramatic.
It is, and it's pretty ingenious, strategically speaking. It's not just a random collection of groups. It's a really sophisticated network. Think of it like a web. Proxies, basically, stretching from Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis down in Yemen, key links to Iraq, Syria, Gaza, too. It lets Iran project power, apply pressure on Israel from lots of directions, but without a full-on direct war, which would be incredibly costly for them. They use asymmetric tactics.
Right, hitting where Israel might be more vulnerable indirectly. And Israel's response to that, well, it's different. They've got this top-tier military, lots of backing from the U.S., and this capability for really precise strikes, surgical strikes almost. So you get this clash, don't you? Iran's proxy warfare versus Israel's high-tech direct approach. And it's kept things simmering, like you said, but now, June 2025, it feels like it's properly boiling over.
It really does.
Okay.
Just a few days ago, things got significantly more intense. June 15th, Israel launched this huge coordinated attack, very specific targets, top Iranian military figures, scientists involved in key programs, and crucially, that above-ground nuclear enrichment facility near Natanz. That was a big one, a very direct message.
Wow. Okay, and Iran's comeback?
Swift. They launched about 100 missiles towards Israel.
100? That's significant.
It is. Now, Israel's air defenses, the Iron Dome, the others, they did incredibly well, intercepted the vast majority.
But not all of them.
No. One missile got through. It hit the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. That was June 19th. Injured 32 people. Now, Iran said they were aiming for a military target nearby. But Israel's deputy foreign minister, he accused them flat out, deliberately hitting civilians.
That's a serious accusation. And did Israel respond again?
They did, almost immediately. Later that same day, June 19th, they hit what they called an inactive nuclear reactor site at Iraq. Their stated reason was very clear: stop Iran potentially getting plutonium for weapons. So another direct hit on the nuclear program concerns.
So strike, counterstrike. Where does that leave things right now?
Well, the immediate fallout is intense. Iran's airspace declared a no-fly zone. You hear reports of people in Iran stocking up on food, water, real anxiety there. And in Tel Aviv, people are living with missile alerts. It's become, tragically, part of the routine. Israel's air defense shield, Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow 2, Arrow 3, even that new laser thing, Iron Beam, it's all working overtime. It sounds like something out of sci-fi, but it's real life.
And this isn't just random back and forth, is it? There's planning behind this.
Oh, absolutely. We're learning that Israel's recent strikes, for example, were apparently years in the making, using spies AI for targeting,
Yeah.
smuggling in drones, really advanced stuff to get past Iran's defenses.
So a long game from Israel, too, in a way.
In a way, yes. And while Iran's missile barrage maybe didn't cause massive physical damage, it sent a clear signal. We will hit back. We won't be deterred.
And all this is happening after those nuclear talks fell apart, right,
Yeah.
in Oman.
Exactly. The diplomatic options seem to be shrinking fast.
Plus, you've got President-elect Trump talking frequently with Netanyahu, reportedly thinking about backing Israel's campaign more directly. That adds another layer of unpredictability.
It really does. The space for de-escalation just seems very, very narrow right now.
Okay, let's bring this closer to home. People listening might think, well, it's tragic, but it's far away. Why should you, listening now, really care deeply about this? Well, it hits your wallet directly. Think about the Strait of Hormuz.
Ah, yes. The choke point.
Exactly. This incredibly narrow shipping lane in the Persian Gulf. What, a fifth of the world's oil goes through there?
At least.
Yeah.
Iran's key energy infrastructure, oil terminals, refineries, the tanker routes, it's all right there. Vulnerable.
So if Israel were to target that, or if the conflict disrupts shipping?
The impact would be immediate. Global energy supply could seize up. Think about countries like China, Japan. India gets 80% of its crude oil through there. 80%.
Wow.
The economic shock would be immense. We're
Yeah.
talking potentially massive spikes in gas prices,
Yeah.
needing a second mortgage just to fill your car, maybe.
And groceries, everything's transported using fuel.
Exactly. Inflation would surge. Global supply chains, already fragile, could break down further. It affects everyone.
Okay, that's the economy. Then there's the nuclear shadow hanging over all this.
Yeah, that's the other huge concern. Iran's been playing this, cat and mouse game with its nuclear program for years. Israel hit the Iraq reactor site. That wasn't subtle. It was a loud message.
Don't cross this line.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But the danger is, if Iran feels truly backed into a corner, if the regime feels threatened, could they decide to make a dash for a bomb, accelerate everything?
And that would trigger.
A nuclear arms race in the Middle East? I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for global security. Truly terrifying.
And beyond the big picture economics, nukes, there's the human cost right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned people in Iran queuing for basics, living in fear. In Israel, the missile sirens, the disruption to daily life, it's taking a huge toll.
And you mentioned Iran might be shifting tactics now, as some of their proxies are weakened.
That's something analysts are watching closely. Groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, have taken hits in earlier rounds with Israel. So Iran might lean more heavily now on asymmetric warfare. What does that mean?
Like?
Cyber attacks. Mobilizing militias, perhaps in different ways. Trying to create chaos and instability across the region through less conventional means, like this constantly shifting chess game, but, with missiles and drones.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the main players. Israel. What's their playbook here?
Well, Israel operates with definite air superiority, highly advanced tech, and frankly, a bit of a we'll do what we need to do for our security regardless of international opinion attitude sometimes.
Their intelligence agencies, Mossad, Amman, Shin Bet, they're legendary, right? Though they have had failures.
Oh, yes. The 1973 Yom Kippur War was a huge intelligence failure that still shapes their thinking. Never again is the mindset. But their main goal now, stop Iran's nuclear program, period, and push back against that proxy network. Contain it, even if that means taking decisive action, like we've seen.
Okay. And Iran, you said they play the long game.
They do. That axis of resistance was strategically very clever. Using proxies lets them fight Israel indirectly, wear them down, extend influence without risking a full-scale war they might lose conventionally.
But now some of those proxies are weaker.
They've been degraded, yeah. So Iran's likely focused on rebuilding that network, adapting, finding new ways, and they're very good at asymmetric stuff. Cyber warfare is a known capability, using militias, sowing instability. It's about leveraging their strengths against Israel's weaknesses.
And the elephant in the room, or maybe the eagle,
Back.
the U.S. factor, what's the thinking there, especially with Trump as president-elect?
Well, Trump's peace through strength idea suggests he'll likely back Israel strongly. He has a very close relationship with Netanyahu.
But would he want a full-blown war?
Probably not. The risks of regional explosion are huge. But his pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal back in 2018, that certainly didn't win friends in Tehran.
No.
So his support might embolden Israel, give them more of a green light for strikes like the ones we've seen. It definitely complicates the diplomacy.
And other countries. just watching nervously.
Pretty much. Russia's offered to mediate, but, they have their own interests there too. Macron in France has warned against trying to topple the regime in Iran, remembering past interventions that went badly wrong. Libya, Iraq.
Right. Unintended consequences.
Exactly. Everyone's worried. And the paths to actually calm things down seem fewer and farther between right now.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? The whole region feels unstable.
Oh, completely. You've still got the conflict in Gaza simmering. Lebanon is fragile. Syria's a mess, caught in the middle.
What about the Palestinian groups like Hamas, Fatah?
Honestly, their internal divisions, plus the focus on this bigger Iran-Israel conflict, seems to have sidelined them somewhat in the current major power plays.
And those Abraham Accords, the deals to normalize relations between Israel and some Arab states?
They look shaky. Public anger in Arab countries over Gaza and now potentially over strikes on Iran. It puts pressure on those governments. States like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, they were moving towards moderation, but this could push them back towards harder lines. It plays into Iran's narrative, ironically.
And globally. We talked oil, but what else?
Energy markets are just on edge, volatile, oil prices creeping up, Asian economies are really exposed. India, we mentioned, relies so heavily on that Hormuz route. They're walking a tightrope, trying to keep ties with everyone, Israel, the U.S., Iran.
Because they need Iran for access too, right? To places like Afghanistan.
Exactly. It's complex.
Right.
But an oil shock, that would be devastating for India's economy.
And China, big buyer of Iranian oil.
Huge buyer. Any major disruption hits them hard, and that ripples through global trade. Everything's connected.
So looking ahead, what are the paths forward? Best case, though maybe that's unlikely.
Yeah, the best case feels like a long shot right now. That would be, cooler heads prevail somehow. Maybe Russia or someone brokers a real ceasefire. Israel, Iran step back from the brink. World breathes a sigh of relief. Oil prices settle.
They can hope, but...
But it doesn't feel like the most likely path, does it?
So what is the most likely path, do you think?
Probably. More of the same, unfortunately. This prolonged tit for tat. Israel keeps hitting Iranian infrastructure, maybe proxies. Iran keeps using its proxies, maybe ups the asymmetric attacks, cyber, militias. The whole region stays on this knife edge.
Which means, for people listening,
continued volatility, energy prices bouncing around, likely trending up, more inflation pressure, your daily costs keep rising, and probably more sanctions on Iran from the U.S. and allies, which, often ends up hurting ordinary Iranians the most, not necessarily changing the regime's behavior.
Okay. And the worst case, the really grim outlook.
The worst case is, well, it's deeply worrying. It could involve Israel deciding it has to go further. Full-scale attacks on Iran's main oil fields or its core nuclear sites like Fordo or Natanz underground facilities, triggering a major regional war. Iran could retaliate by trying to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. That sends oil prices astronomical. Global economies crash. Iran's proxies, Hezbollah especially, could unleash hell across the region. Houthis attacking shipping even more.
And the U.S. gets dragged in.
Almost inevitably in that scenario, leading to, well, a situation none of us want to contemplate. A global conflict dimension. And the ultimate nightmare. Iran, feeling its survival is at stake, makes that final desperate dash for a nuclear weapon.
It really paints a stark picture.
It does. And this whole deep dive, it just hammers home a truth, doesn't it? In this kind of hate-fueled standoff, nobody really wins. Israel's aggressive actions aimed at security, they damage international standing, they cost civilian lives. Iran's proxy strategy keeps the conflict simmering, keeps it dirty. And their nuclear ambitions just cast this huge shadow. They're locked in this cycle. Threat, revenge, counter-threat. And the rest of the world is just hoping they don't burn the whole house down.
And it's not just their house. As we've said, this isn't distant news. This is geopolitics hitting you, your gas tank, your job security, your feeling of safety in a connected world. It's all linked.
Absolutely. This standoff, it's been brewing for decades. And based on everything we're seeing in June 2025, it feels like it's set to get uglier before there's any chance of it getting better. So maybe the next time you're filling up your car or you see grocery prices jump again, just take a moment. It's not just simple economics at play. It's partly the echo of this incredibly complex, dangerous reality unfolding. Two nations locked in conflict, convinced for now that peace isn't the priority. And we are all, unfortunately, caught in the ripples.